people say feel the fear and do it anyway. I disagree. I think when you feel the fear and do it anyway, when you push past the fear and you don't take the time to deal with the fear and what the fear is telling you, you miss very important lessons that you're going to take with you into the next thing. Sometimes when you feel the fear and do it anyway, you don't learn the lesson, because the fear never goes away. The fear comes back. So either it's you're going to have to do that same thing again and you're going to be scared again, or let's say you push past and you make it to the next level of whatever it is that you're trying to do, and that fear comes back. You don't know how to handle it. And you might feel that because you've pushed past the fear and now something else has come up and you're scared again, that you failed. But it doesn't mean that you failed, because every time you cross one level, every time you level up, you are now at the bottom of another level. And I'm not saying that to discourage you. That's actually an encouraging thing, because that means that there's more to you. That means that there are more levels that you can get to. So every single time you level up, expect and know that you are now at the bottom of another level. More is going to be required of you at this level, and more is going to be required of you to get out of this level. And fear is just part of it. Fear is just part of the package. So instead of feeling the fear and doing it anyway, I want to encourage you to do these things, right? Number one is, yes, feel the fear. Feel it. Allow yourself to be afraid, because often what we do is we don't want to look afraid. We want to look like we know what we're doing. So we shake off the fear and we keep going, but you're going in this false sense of security. You're going to, most of the time, if we're honest, you are going to show other people that you're not afraid. Right? Most of the time, it's not to prove to ourselves that we're not afraid. And why should we have to prove to ourselves that we're not afraid? Being afraid is not a bad thing. Being afraid is a natural reaction to what is new and what is uncertain. It is a natural reaction. Allow yourself to feel that fear. But it's interesting, and this is coming to me now. In the Bible, it says, do not be afraid. My God. It says, do not be afraid. It doesn't say don't feel fear. It says, do not be afraid. It also says, God has not given us a spirit of fear. So this spirit of fear that comes inside of us and makes us feel that we are incapable of doing the things that we want to do, that is something that embodies us, right? Do not be afraid. Do not be a fearful person. You see the difference? That fear has now become part of your personality. Fear is who you are. That's what it's saying. Do not be afraid. Right? Do not embody fear. Do not carry fear as your identity. Can you feel fear? Absolutely. But fear is not who you are. So feel the fear. Second thing, question the source of the fear. Where is this fear coming from? What are you afraid of? Is it a consequence? Is it a perception? Is it the change? Where is the fear coming from, and what are you afraid of? Identify the source of the fear, because you cannot face a fear that you have not acknowledged. Right? If you feel the fear and do it anyway, you just allow yourself to feel this thing, but you haven't acknowledged the thing that you are afraid of. So therefore, how do you confront it? How do you overcome something that you have not acknowledged? Validate, the next thing, this is number 3, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. Validate the actual threat of the source. You may feel afraid, but after some evaluation, you may realize this thing that I am afraid of, this consequence that I am afraid of, is not really something that I should be afraid of, right? But if you go in your feelings, if you go based on your feelings and you feel the fear and you do it anyway, you never validate that source. And then you allow that source, whatever that thing is that's making you afraid, you allow that to walk with you on your journey into the next thing. And then fears can be compounded, because if you are on this level and you have a certain fear, right? And you never deal with this fear, but you manage to feel the fear and do it anyway, and you level up here. Whatever fear you had on this level, you have now taken to this level. There's another fear waiting for you here. And if you haven't dealt with the fear on this level, you have double trouble when you get to the next level. And that's why you find you can overcome something, you can accomplish something, and then you get stuck. Because you don't know how to handle, and then you say, you know what, forget it. I can't do it. I can't do this. Because you haven't dealt with that fear. So validate the actual threat of that source. Then decide to act. Decide to act despite what you discovered. Decide to act despite what you have discovered. Because just because a fear exists, just because you have identified the source, doesn't mean that you can't overcome that fear. So decide to act despite what you have discovered. Does that mean that I go ahead anyway now? Does that mean I need additional resources? Does that mean I need a strategy? What does this mean? How are you going to go forward? Right? And then do it anyway. You see the difference between the insight that you have allowed yourself to have versus feel the fear and do it anyway. Yes, there are instances where you don't have time to think, but most of the time, it is not a life or death situation. Most of the time, you have the time to think. You have the time to evaluate. Give yourself permission to take your time. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Give yourself permission to take your time. Give yourself permission to gain insight. Give yourself permission to learn. Give yourself permission to feel the fear. But do not embody the identity of being afraid. You have not been given a spirit of fear. You have been given a spirit of power, of love, and of a sound mind. And that sound mind is what is going to give you the insight that you need to be able to handle the things that you need to handle. I hope that helped. Keep following for more, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Stay blessed and keep thinking higher. Keep thinking higher thoughts.